A reading from the Gospel of St. Matthew. At that time, Jesus said, "I thank you, Father, Lord of heaven and earth, because you have hidden these things from the wise and the intelligent, and have revealed them to infants. Yes, Father, for such was your gracious will. All things have been handed over to me by my Father. No one knows the Son except the Father, and no one knows the Father except the Son, and anyone to whom the Son chooses to reveal him." Now, I must be very honest and say, I don't know why these two verses from Matthew's Gospel were chosen for the text today. Because in a way, they are a conduit from one event to another. And standing alone without context are difficult, really, to understand. Jesus is being critical of the religious hierarchy, the clever and the learned, who oppose or shun his teaching, whereas, as he terms it, the children, the little ones, accept on faith. In other words, have an innocent acceptance like a child. So let's go back to see where Jesus is. Actually, he is talking to the crowds about Israel's prophets, those who came before until John the Baptist. He's picking up on the fact that there seems to be constant arguments with one group or faction insisting they are right and true. The others are not. Unkind criticism, lots of complaints. We only have to look at social media or political life to see people blaming each other in a way that just seems to keep escalating today. In a game, Jesus illustrates, that moves back and forth between the boys leading a wedding dance and the girls a funeral march, something has gone awry, and now both groups are hurling blame across the marketplace. "We played the flute for you and you didn't dance." "Yeah, but we wailed and you didn't mourn." And so rather than playing happily together, the children are caught up in the back and forth of the argument, trying to blame each other for things falling apart. The Jews seem like children who refuse to respond to either action. The people Jesus is talking about didn't listen to John the Baptist because his asceticism. We understand he lived in harsh conditions, ate locusts and wild honey, dressed in animal skins, and that did not please them. However, when Jesus came, celebrating life in all its fullness, well, that's not where they wanted to find God either. They're clearly not engaging with the teaching from God about the coming of the kingdom. But as far as they are concerned, that's not their fault. They're happier squabbling like children over the deficiencies of those around them than taking responsibility for their own behaviour. The people Jesus is talking about either didn't listen to John, they're not engaging with the teaching from God. When things go really awry, we can end up arguing about how it's everybody else's fault and refusing to take responsibility, or worse, uniting around a scapegoat and piling all the blame on them. Now we move to the 2 verses following our text for today, where the burden of blame culture, the stress and the confusion are put to one side. As Jesus says, "Come to me, all you that are weary and are carrying heavy burdens, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light." This image of a yoke is extraordinary. A young ox would be yoked to a mature one who knew how to obey the driver's instruction. The young ox would be guided by its partner until it learnt to follow the will of its master. If we translate this image into following Jesus, it's not really following at all. It's going together, side by side, and being guided by him as we learn to discern and obey the will of the Father. If we submit to this yoke, we will exchange our heavy burden for a light one. So our burden of failure, of anxiety, of loneliness, of dissatisfaction, of feeling like we haven't achieved. Haven't achieved what, I wonder? The power or wealth or belonging we desire? All this is surrendered when we surrender our desire to choose our own path and follow our own way. On the path that Christ walks with us, we are taught that we are loved, that we do matter, that we are wanted and liked and precious. And as we take on the yoke of Christ, which is not complicated, as we learn by being yoked to him, we pick up a different burden, one that is shared with Christ and all his people, the burden of the victim. By stepping out of the self-interested blame game, we have to be the ones who are blamed, who are scapegoated, as Jesus was. We walk alongside the poor in spirit, the meek, the mourning, the peacemakers, the persecuted. The burden is not trivial, but it is not crushing, because it is shared and carried by the one who brings abundant life out of sin and death.